What's going on, guys? Red Bull Tanker, and welcome to turn one for this playtest of Korea 625 War. Alright, let's kick it off. So, as I am playing the North Koreans started off the game as normal with a full-on assault from Chorwon, Sarwon. They went into 38 West, while the North Korean forces in Sinmark and Yanggu went into 38 West. They were very successful attacks with the North Koreans wiping out. Well, actually, they didn't entirely wipe out. They wiped out three of the four South Korean infantry and an artillery, while also, if you guys remember, in the retreat rule, there is on a 1 or 2 infantry can be captured instead of destroyed, and so they were able to capture 1 South Korean infantry. And then over on 38 East, it was a complete blowout. The North Korean pre-artillery bombardment wiped out the 4 South Korean infantry, and then the South Korean artillery didn't get a hit on its pre-bombardment, and then the South Korean artillery supply truck were wiped out by the ensuing attack. Going down, and then pretty much the North Koreans did launch a strategic bombing raid against the factory in Busan and were able to score 4 hits. And then basically the North Koreans just consolidated the militaries between 38 West, 38 East, and consolidating some forces in Pyongyang. All right, coming down to South Korea with General Fitch. Basically, he took all of his forces. Oh, I did forget. In 38 West, the South Koreans were able, though, to retreat an artillery, a supply truck, and 1 supply. And so then General Fitch, on his turn, he spread out the South Korean forces here in Uijeonbu, and then pulled the surviving artillery back into Seoul. He has begun moving up the South Korean forces to the north in preparation to make for the defense of Seoul. General Schmidt, playing as China, did nothing. He is just holding China there. Coming down to the United Nations, General Benoit moved the UN fleet to Sea Zone 5. He moved the entire bulk of the UN Air Force to Seoul to help the air defenses in the city there. And then, I suppose I could have said everyone bought 2. I guess I forgot to talk about that. But okay. And then over to the U.S. with General Davis. He moved a majority of the U.S. fleet to Sea Zone 6 and offloaded some troops here in Kanung. He offloaded the majority of the U.S. supply from the 1 transport into Busan. Let's see here. He took a supply truck and a AAA from Tsushima and boarded it on one of the UN transports, and then sent the U.S. strategic bomber up to Seoul as well. And then moved the 2 fighters from Tsushima up to Busan as well. So yeah, a semi-eventful first turn. I mean, as always, like pretty much the first 3 turns of this game are pretty well scripted, as far as the North Koreans making their march down the peninsula towards Seoul. For the most part, so coming over here, like right now, the defenders of Seoul have 5 infantry, 6 artillery, 2 strategic bombers, and 5 fighters. And then we have the onrushing 1st and 2nd KPA Corps that have a decent amount of forces in for themselves while also having a decent backup force here. Although I realized that I had bought a fighter bomber and it disappeared. Okay, so let's go over. So again, the objectives for this game have changed. I believe I covered this in our last playtest, but now you have a marginal, substantial, and decisive victory. And so for the UN, the marginal victory is they have to hold 6 IPC worth of North Korean territory. A substantive victory for the Allies is holding 6 IPC worth of North Korean territory while also holding Pyongyang. And then the decisive is meeting the first 2 objectives, meeting the first 2 objectives and controlling at least 1 province on the Yalu, along the Yalu River here. For the communists, it's kind of the reverse. A marginal victory is 6 IPC, substantive is 6 IPC in Seoul, and then a decisive is the first 2 objectives and controlling at least 1 province that makes up the Pusan perimeter, whether that is Pohang, Wigwang, or Masan. So this will make up the Pusan perimeter. So going over to the scoreboard right now, it is 0. Well, I guess not really scoreboard, but the IPC tracker is 0-0, as neither side has captured any IPC from the other, though that will obviously change when we get to turn 2. All right. I think that is it. So we will now move the turn marker to August and September 1950. And as before, sorry about that, guys. And as before, starting August and September, the U.S. can start deploying heavy and medium tanks, and the UN can start deploying medium tanks as well. And I believe that is going to be it. So that is it for turn 1, and we will see you guys next time for turn 2. So until then, guys, as always, take care.